Whether you're doing maybe some embroidery or there's just an area where you have to do some hand stitching that isn't right along the edge of a piece of fabric, or you can't bury a knot in maybe a seam allowance or a hem, there are times where you want that knot to be as inconspicuous as possible. So rather than tying a knot either in the traditional method where you have some tails or ends to the knot, I'm going to show you a way you can make sort of no knot on the wrong side of your fabric, and it is the tiniest little speck that if you were using a color of thread that matched your fabric, you wouldn't even be able to see it. So the way you need to start is you need to thread your needle slightly different than you normally would. So for this, I'm going to be using a double strand of thread. So I have both strands of my thread going through my needle. I have both of my raw ends on this side, and I have my looped end of my thread on this side of the needle. I'm going to take my fabric, and I'm going to just pick wherever it is that I need to start doing my stitching, and I'm going to put my needle through the fabric. I'm going to pull my thread until all I have left is a small loop of thread. This is the wrong side of my fabric. I'm going to flip this over. This is the right side. I want to take a very, very tiny stitch. So I'm going about 1/16 of an inch away from where I brought my needle out. So if you're looking at your fabric, this should be 1 or 2 thread widths of your fabric away. Flip it back over to the wrong side. We're going to pull it through. I then want to loop my needle through that end of my thread, through my loop right there, and I'm going to pull it tight. I've essentially just created my knot. Now what I want to do is go back down into my fabric right on my first stitch, bring my needle to the right side, and now I'm ready to do whatever kind of embroidery or hand stitching that I need to do. And I essentially have no knot on the wrong side of my fabric because all I have is that small little looped stitch. So it lays nice and flat, there are no little thread ends and no risk of that knot coming undone. And best of all, if you're using matching thread, you won't even see it. So now you have no knot on the wrong side and you're ready to do your hand stitching or your embroidery on the right side.